Good evening and welcome to the Reel McCoy, your weekly movie podcast, where me, Mephisto, and my good hetero life mate, All My Feelings, are going to talk about movies and stuff. This week, we're going to discuss Halloween. Now, what is the Reel McCoy all about? The Reel McCoy is a movie podcast where we ask you to go and watch a movie, come back to us, and then we'll break it down and geek out on it, nerd out on it, and just share the love of movies that all of us have. Thank you, Biffer, for the sound check. I appreciate that, my friend. All right, before we even start this thing, just a little bit of thing. Like this video, subscribe if you like it. If you want to support us, that'll be great. If you want to keep in touch, Mephisto on Twitter at Mephisto, or on Instagram, which I don't use a lot, but I will take your DMs. It's Mephisto79. Or if you want to email me, Mephisto79@gmail.com. Or if you just want to give us a comment, give us a suggestion, comment section down below. Of course, everything is invited, along with if you have any graphical knowledge that you want to share with us, we'll definitely take a look at that. All right, sir. Halloween 1978 by John Carpenter, starring the immortal, well, she's not immortal, but she is our scream queen, Miss Jamie Lee
Curtis.
Take it away, my good sir.
Okay, so you want to talk about one of the most highly recommended and rated horror films of all time. This still has a fresh rating of I think it's 97% in critics ratings
on
Rotten Tomatoes, and I think it's at 8.6%.
I actually don't like Rotten Tomatoes.
No, but even on Metacritic, it still has a high 80s on Metacritic. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, this is a classic for a reason. The movie was made on a shoestring budget of $300,000 at the time. It
Yes.
made $70 million worldwide.
And made the careers of a lot of people, including John Carpenter, Jamie Lee Curtis,
Curtis, yes.
and Deborah Hill, which is a very well-known rip producer. Yeah, she
And oddly
died, I
enough,
think it's late 90s, I think.
Nick Castle, the guy who played Michael Myers,
Yes, as well.
he went on to direct 2 movies that you may know: The Last Starfighter
Which was not very good,
and Major Pain.
which I have not seen.
You have not? Oh, what? Damon Wayans. It's a hilarious movie.
Okay, Damon
He also
Wayans,
directed Dennis the
gotcha.
Menace and several other films too. But
Another shitty movie. Okay.
yeah, but no, but still,
What
coming
you
out of
expect?
this,
It's Michael Myers, man. He's crazy.
yeah, but this movie is such an enigma in itself because the way that it became even a concept was 2 producers. One of the producers on Assault on Precinct 13, which was John Carpenter's first film,
Yes.
after it was the Milan. It was the Milan Film Festival. Came to him and said, like, "Hey, we have an idea of maybe doing a babysitter like slasher kind of movie. Would you want to write it?" He wrote one, and then one of the producers said, "Hey, what about maybe if we make it themed during Halloween?" And that's when he and Hill went off to co-write the script for that. They wrote the script in 7 days.
And John Carpenter wrote the music in 3 days.
3 days, yes.
3 days. And he wrote it after the movie. He wrote it after the movie was set and done and finished, which was insane.
And John Carpenter only got paid $10,000 to write, direct, and score the movie, but he had the caveat in his contract where he got 10% of the profits. That's where he got some of that money back.
Where the moolah comes in, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the other really fun thing, I'm just going through the fun little behind the scenes stuff, is the town that it's based in is actually an amalgam of the towns that Deborah Hill and John Carpenter grew up in.
Yes, I knew that as well. I've actually watched a very quick and fun documentary. There are I'm gonna recommend it now. It is the movie the movies that made us, something like that.
Oh yes, yeah.
Which takes very well-known movies. Some of them we had on the podcast, some of them we will have on the podcast. And it is presented in a very, like, it gives you a lot of backstory about the writing staff, the budget, the producers, a little bit on the directors, a little bit of backstories. They don't really necessarily talk to actual actors. There is a little caveat when it comes to like Nightmare on Elm Street and Ghostbusters and that sort of thing, where Dan Aykroyd was more into this and that sort of thing. But it is
Friday
actually
the 13th. You could not do a documentary about Friday the 13th without talking to one of the actors like Kane Hodder, who actually played Jason in multiple roles, or like Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, how could you do a documentary about Nightmare on Elm Street and not talk to Robert Englund?
Exactly. I haven't seen the Nightmare on Elm Street one, but I have seen the one about Halloween. It was very eye-opener about things that were going on. And I watched it after watching Halloween. I have not watched Halloween since I was a very, very small child, and I haven't remembered anything. What I should have done is actually do a reaction video, but I was watching it at work while working on the short version of it. It was real eye-opener because I remembered very different things about this movie. I remembered like not watching Michael Myers at all until it comes to the killing part. Well, we'll get to the whole thing in a bit, but you saw a lot of Michael Myers in this one.
Yeah.
A lot of Michael Myers in you see more Michael Myers in this than you see Jason in Friday the 13th 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, that's
it's
very true.
Incredible. Yeah. If you take every like little scene together, you see way more of Michael Myers in this just one movie compared to the other movies. Now, when I go back a little bit to the score again was done in 3 days by John Carpenter, and it was basically about 5 notes run back again and again and again, but in different octaves, so in different pitches. So it's
Yeah,
basically the same thing over and over and over and over and over again until it reaches a certain point where it gives a little bit of melody, and then it goes exactly way back
it
to those.
correct me if I'm wrong, but it's in 10/8 or 5/4 time, right?
That's I don't know, but I know it's
I
like
believe it
five
is.
notes. It's
Yeah,
5 notes going down, looped around one after the other, but they give it a little bit of pitches, so it goes up a little bit, then goes
yeah,
down a little bit, then goes up a little bit. That kind of creates it's sort of it creates the anticipation. It leads you in the music. Not only it's haunting, but it's also making you glued into the screen, the rhythm of it, the way which is which in which it acts, and it starts literally at this blank screen.
yeah.
I'm gonna play it for
It's
four
the very
seconds.
yes.
I'm gonna play it for 4 seconds, which is as far as I know a fair use as much as possible.
Yep.
You can hear it for 4 seconds just so you know what I mean. Can you hear this?
Not yet, but it's really quiet at the beginning.
Okay. Uh, uh, is can I share? Yeah, it. I think everybody will heard it, but I will do it again. Literally from the start. I hope you can hear this. I know the audience can. Can you hear?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So
So again, the notes are extremely quiet. The volume actually builds
yeah,
in the credits.
the volume actually builds. It starts really really low. Yes, I know. I have to keep within the fair use. So I
No,
can't
no,
really.
I understand. I understand. I
But
was just saying that's why I probably
it
couldn't hear it. That's all.
it's looping around, and it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds, and the anticipation and the thrill element of a horror movie does build a lot due to the fact that there's the music. So the first we'll go for the first scene basically, and we're going to go through this rather quickly because as we saw in Friday the 13th, because it's a horror movie, there's a lot of either still shots where you see people walking around, or there's actions that start and then it cuts to the same person outside, and then cuts to
Yes,
the same person inside
and
another building, and then inside another building, and showing the friend and showing, it cuts to a lot of pieces,
yeah,
and it builds very slowly in terms of
and what
murders and everything.
I wish that was James Pond was here because he recommended us watch Suspiria, which
Yes.
Carpenter took a lot of influence from Suspiria and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which had just been released only a few years earlier. Um, the major thing about this is you can see in slasher movies in the genre, like moving forward from the 80s on, the more prevalent the genre became, the faster and faster the pacing of the movies became. Because as we saw in Friday the 13th, it was a slog all the way up until the end, where yes, there were a couple inner cut scenes of action where someone was killed in a typical slasher fashion,
Yeah.
but nothing like the modern ones where there's random jump scares all the time. It has to be on to keep the
Yeah.
audience engaged. These tell stories, then build to action because Annie is the first one that dies in this movie, besides, unfortunately, the puppy.
Yeah, and by the way, he's in the chat. I just wanted to say it's Biffer.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, it's just changing it
Oh,
for for fun. It's cool.
fine.
It's cool. I he tweeted me out like something this week. Yeah, he tweeted that one out. He tweeted me a movie
I
that
was
I've
trying to give the
actually
benefit of the doubt here.
he tweeted me out a movie that I've totally forgotten with Daryl Hannah. It's the Lost Tribe. He tweeted this to me. It's called The Clan of the Cave Bear. It is a very
Oh God.
it's a it's a forgotten film by Daryl
Yep.
Hannah. One of the only
Yep.
ones I like with her in it.
Yep.
Um,
It's kind of
which
forgotten for a reason too. Just saying.
yeah, I know. Anyway, I did enjoy having to go back a little bit. It took me down a very happy rabbit hole. Let's just say that. Okay. But going back to the movie, you said slasher. How much blood do you think is in this movie? You've watched it at least today.
Actually, very minimal. The only blood that you actually only ever see is where on Jamie Lee Curtis near the end, and in this scene on the knife.
Yeah,
and his sister. That's it.
Yeah, there's a part with the sister where that's very minimal. You don't see any knife going into anybody. So not only the blood isn't there, the knife, it's the insert of the knife, where in Friday the 13th, the first kill is literally somebody gets slashed with a knife into the throat, and you can see the throat opening up and the blood coming out. In this one, you see him doing some sort of a stab, but the only blood you see is here on the victim after she dies, but it's super minimal, and it's not the corn syrupy consistency. It looks more like the blood you see in Dawn of the Dead, where we saw a lot of like bright red, like sort of like paint that you shellac on the wall, right?
Yeah, and especially like later when we get to the Jamie Lee Curtis when she gets away from Michael Myers, you see
when she gets her
has a little bit of like
yeah.
There is no clear like wound there. It's just it looks like chocolate sauce is on her arm.
Yeah, it looks like a very minimal scratch. If I can get to that specific scene, I will show it. So
yeah,
the whole thing about Michael Myers is they don't actually explain too much about who he is, and what the only origin story we have is literally the boy. We see the like first person Michael going around the house killing his sister after she had sex with somebody, and his parents literally discovering him and lifting his mask, revealing his face right there, right? And there is another face reveal that you see close to the end.
Yes, correct.
But it's very minimal and in the dark, so you can see his face if you stop it at the correct moment. There's like 3 frames that you do see his older face. It doesn't seem deformed in any way. He just wears that specific mask. By the way, there is a very juicy story with that mask. You know who the face is modeled on?
Oh yeah, no, I know the whole story. They bought it at a costume store for $1.98, and it's a Captain Kirk mask.
It's a Captain Kirk. It's a
William Shatner.
It's a William Shatner mask with the eyebrows shaved off, right?
And what they did is they spray painted it this like a light blue flesh color to give it that really kind of an ominous, just a blank facade.
Yeah, that's what they were going for. They wanted to have originally they wanted to have a clown mask. That's why the boy has a clown mask, because it's Halloween, and they wanted to have a clown mask, but the clown mask that they had a little bit of feature, so it was smiling, and they were going for a menacing, quiet,
just a blank face, a cipher,
blank face, so you don't see any emotions as little as possible, to mirror the fact that Michael Myers is a psychotic yet methodical killer that will not stop, and he literally does not stop. So we have Dr.
Even
Loomis.
20 years later in this.
Have you seen the new one?
I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but it's really bad.
I'm not. I'm not into.
It's really movies. Bad.
Yeah, it got good ratings though, so I don't know.
It's good up until the very ending. The last 5 minutes of the movie go, oh, hey, everything you liked about this series, Fuck you.
Uh, are they doing the thing that I hate the most, subverting your expectation?
In a way, yeah. I'll tell you off. I don't want to spoil it for anybody
Okay.
because it's still new.
Okay. So Dr. Loomis and the nurse, which I don't remember the name of, and it doesn't really matter. They drive up to the psychiatry psych. You'll say
Hospital,
it.
yeah.
The hospital where they keep
Yes.
all the crazy people. Anyway, and they're talking about
That's the way to phrase it.
they're talking about. Hey, I'm not PC. You know I'm not PC. Anyway, um, they go into the insane asylum and they're talking about a court date for the next day. And Dr. Loomis says, "I want to make sure that Michael doesn't come out because he is dangerous. I've been talking to him for like 15 years, and this guy needs to stay in the psychiatric hospital because he is a menace to society." So they come up, and everything is in disarray. The patients are out, and Dr. Loomis goes out to see what's happening, and suddenly they get attacked by who else? Michael Myers. Now I've managed to stop somewhere because I did see it in that Netflix thing that I've watched, and it was very interesting. There is a part here where Michael tries to get into the car, and the nurse kind of squitters away, and you can tell she's on the not the driver's seat but the passenger seat, and Michael Myers is literally smacking the window to break it, to make sure she runs out of the car and he can get in and drive off. Now in that special I've seen, that little episode I've seen, they say, well, you can see he's holding a wrench because he had a wrench to break the window, because he couldn't break the window with his bare hand, obviously. Now, when I watched this the first time, I was like, no, he didn't. He didn't get a wrench. You can see it. It's literally there.
Yep.
That's
it's literally in his palm.
Yeah, but the shot itself, it happens like that. You don't even see it. It comes, you don't expect, you see it framed the way that you basically expect it to come from the window, but you don't know what's going to come through there. So either a baseball bat, a hand punching in, something's going to happen with that window because she cowls in, right? And you know, as a horror buff, you know something's going to happen, even if you haven't seen this movie at all. The hand breaks it and it happens so fast. But if you are a film buff, this is like, oh, they made a mistake here.
Yeah.
The editing in this is so damn good.
Yeah.
If you don't expect it, you don't see it. Your eye blurs the thing, the wrench away, and all you see is basically a jump scare. Yeah, a jump scare, and a hand breaks it, and then it cuts away to Dr. Loomis on the outside. It's so good. It's so well made.
I will say too, for reference's sake, technically he's not Michael Myers yet. He is Michael Myers, but he's never actually credited as Michael Myers.
The guy who escapes?
No, actually, like Michael Myers in the film, he's not credited as Michael Myers. He's credited as the Shape.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He wasn't Michael Myers until Halloween 2.
Okay. But they do call him Michael a lot in this movie. They call the spooky place, the place of his parents, they call it the Myers residence.
Yeah.
And they call him Michael. They don't call him the Shape. But in
I know. That's just how it's listed in the credits. He's credited. Nick Castle is credited as playing the Shape.
Yeah. So I like this bit. It jumps forward to when we're actually in town, and this is the kid that Jamie Lee Curtis babysits in.
That's Tommy Doyle, and he plays a really integral part throughout the entire series going forward.
Okay. Again, I'm not the
Yeah.
series buff. I've only seen this one from the entire series. I have
Oh, okay.
I have no desire to watch any horror movies. I've watched like the Elm Street series. That's the only thing I've watched, and that only goes up to like late 90s, early 2000s, maybe. All right, so these guys are taunting him about the boogeyman, putting the boogeyman in his head because this is 78 and people were more afraid back then, obviously. But the thing I wanted to discuss is the fact that Tommy is holding a pumpkin.
Mhm.
This was shot during April of
Yep. And they could
78.
rarely find pumpkins
They
in
had,
spring.
for the
Yeah.
entire movie, they had 3
Right.
pumpkins.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they, no matter what they did, this is Southern California, and they couldn't find any pumpkins, which is, to me, is fucking a hilarious fact about this movie.
Yeah.
So when Tommy literally squishes that pumpkin, they're down to 2.
2.
They're down
And
to 2.
what's really funny too is it's already playing into the boogeyman mythos and how everyone's afraid of the Myers house.
Yes.
Because John Carpenter really wanted this to be a play on, all small towns have that one house that everyone's afraid to go to, or that there's rumors that something bad happened at that house, and he wanted it to be basically a play on the small town haunted house kind of story, and this fits it to a T.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we have our titular group of girls.
Oh, and also side note too, that one scene shows that little kids have always been fucking assholes.
Yeah, kids have always been assholes. Dude, I see it every day. Kids are still assholes to each other. It's all, you know what? It's all grown up, like back and forth politics, but done at a very like kid-like level. It's the same. It's the same everywhere. All right, so we've got
so we have
Jamie, Lori, and we've got Annie, and we've got Little
Linda.
Miss Sunshine. Linda. Like, the thing with Linda is this is supposed to be Illinois somewhere.
Yes.
Right? Midwest.
Yeah, like it's Illinois.
Okay. She talks like an LA girl. It's totally, dude. It's totally. Every fucking word is totally. Like when we say like all the time, she speaks like that. It's totally this and totally that. And I got this, if you see the caption, right? It says totally. So these girls, again, they're setting up tropes that will literally come to fruition later on, which is Jamie Lee Curtis is the virgin. She's the goody two shoes. She's the Boy Scout. She's Girl Scout. She's the girl. She's the smartest. She's the most hardworking in school, and the other girls are more, sinful, as we say. Well, they're whores.
Promiscuous.
They're very whorish in their nature, both of them. And the fact of the matter is, Annie and Lori do drive around town at a certain point at the afternoon, and they share a joint. And Lori does partake, and Annie's dad is the chief of police in the town, right? He's the sheriff, and you can tell in that scene he can definitely smell it, but because he knows it's his daughter, he's saying nothing.
We're gonna talk about the hardware store scene later, because there's one bit at the hardware store scene that is hilarious to me, and it makes me laugh every single time it happens.
Okay, so we're gonna discuss the first scene. Well, Lori does notice a man standing outside of the school before that particular shot.
And she actually tries to alert her teacher to it.
Yes,
and her teacher says, "No. What's the answer to the question?" They're talking philosophy at the time. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and when kind of Linda walks away, we see the first glimpse of how scary Michael Myers can be. I'm setting it up. There we go.
Yeah, right behind the head.
And what I want to discuss is what I said at the beginning of the podcast, where you see a lot of Michael Myers pop up, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's the distance here? There's nothing here.
I would say it must be maybe 100 feet
Maybe
at the
100
very
feet.
most.
I would say 80, 60 feet in meters, 20 meters, I would say. Something
20 or
like that.
30, yeah,
It
something like that.
is very, very close.
Close.
Very close. And both Annie and Laurie see this guy, and then he literally, and when they approach him, he just leaves.
Well, we're gonna get to that at the very end of the final cuts at the end of the film and what they imply. But
Okay.
yeah.
Later on, I'm moving forward. Later on, we'll go with this. Laurie gets a telephone. She says, hello, hello. And nobody answers. So she shuts the phone down, looks outside of her window, and there's a man in those,
The sheets.
the sheets. And Annie calls her again and talks. Well, why did you hang up? I was just getting to talk to you. And when Laurie talks to Annie and says to her, look, I've seen this guy again. And when she looks again, this is the shots she sees. Basically, there's nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of intensifies the whole stalking, the stalking killer aspect of this movie. And it really puts you in an eerie, creepy mood.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Along with this, along the line, we see Dr. Loomis's character, which is funny because it's Ernest Blofeld from the James Bond movies. Well,
yeah,
one of the iterations.
He was actually the highest paid actor in this whole film. You know how much he got paid?
He didn't really want to do this movie at all.
Well, because it was John Cushing turned down the role, and then Christopher Lee also turned down the role. But he told John Carpenter later that it was the biggest regret of his whole career to turn down this role. But no, John, you know how much he got paid for the movie though, and he's the highest paid actor.
I think it's 15,000.
No, it was 20,000.
20,000.
A little bit more than you thought.
Yeah, but it was. Look, it's almost.
I mean, we're talking
10% of the budget.
We're talking like a shoestring budget. Jamie Lee Curtis only got paid $8,000 for this movie,
and she did not get any percentage of anything.
And Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers, was paid $25 a day.
He had a lot of days. They had
this movie was only shot in 20 days.
Not 12? I think it was 12
No,
days.
It was 20 days. 20 days. But think about it. If he was even on set for every single one of those.
Yeah, that's not a lot of money. But
no, it's not.
It's not. It's not. Anyway, so we see Dr. Loomis pop in, like it literally sometimes goes into Loomis and it kind of resets everything with the girls. Mm-hmm. And did you notice that where they go to Loomis and he goes into a payphone to talk to the sheriff, and then he goes into the graveyard just to see where he might be going, and then he goes into the haunted house. So every time you see Dr. Loomis, it kind of resets the storyline with the girls. That's at least what I noticed. Yes, and he goes into the graveyard scene, which is very odd. And he talks to the caretaker, and the caretaker leads him into Michael's sister's grave.
Yep.
And they literally reach a point where they see a missing grave, and the caretaker looks at his notes and, oh shit, this is the headstone of Michael Myers' sister. I think it's Annie Myers, right?
No, I can't.
It doesn't matter.
Jenny Myers, something like no. Annie is Annie.
Annie's the curly haired girl. Yeah.
Yep.
So
the sheriff's daughter.
They reach this point, and the caretaker says, "Well, fucking kids always do this shit, and they always pull these." It's like, oh shit, this is her grave. And Dr. Loomis is he he is on top of things, right? He knows what's going on when it actually happens. He doesn't foresee a lot of things that are going to happen, but
Now,
he is accepting of the weirdness.
that's what I find really interesting, because you talked about that juxtaposition between what Loomis is doing and what the girls are doing.
Yeah.
See, Loomis automatically assumes that Michael wants to return to his family home, right?
Yeah.
Not continue to prey, to hunt, to hunt his prey. Had he changed his mentality to begin with, Annie would have lived. Linda would have lived. Bob would have lived.
Yeah, but like I said, he is not prophetic in terms of he doesn't know exactly what Michael is going to do.
No, I know, but one would think after being his...
from the set of things that Michael, he thinks Michael is going to do, he chooses a path and he sticks to that path. So he gets to the sheriff. He does talk to him. He does get him into the Myers residence. He does convince him that they should, I don't know, stake out the place and see, maybe it's he says something about making this his base of operations where he goes out and attacks from there. So Correct. He knows he's going to attack. He knows he's going to kill, but he's not trying to look for him actively as well. He's trying to get to specific points of reference in order to maybe intersect with Michael and bring him down.
I understand that, but I'm just saying from his experience with Michael, you would assume that he would understand that he would be someone who is going out to hunt again. And who did he kill the first time he killed? He killed a young woman. Yeah. And that's typically always, unfortunately, that's what typically is the MO of most serial killers, most psychosocial serial killers. Yeah. They tend to go for young women.
Okay. So, talk to me about this hardware store, dude.
Okay. Now, the hardware store scene, the reason why it is so funny to me is there is a wrap up where when they have a conversation, the sheriff has a conversation with Annie and Lori, where he goes, yeah, it must be some kids who did that. All he took was a mask, some knives, and some rope. It has to be some kids.
Yeah, that
what kids live in your town?
Yeah,
that's the question first and foremost.
What kind of a hardware store sells a mask that is looks like a fucking crazy person's mask? I would think you would get like a blast shield mask,
mask, like a welding mask,
a welding mask or something like that, right? But no,
or like even a ski mask.
Yeah,
something like I can even see that being feasible, but no, like a costume mask, no. And also, this break-in had to have happened before Lori saw Michael outside of the school. So how long? What is the response time in this town to a crime?
Between bad and very shitty.
Yeah, I would say it's really fucking horrendous. One of those
things. This is after school. This is afternoon.
Yeah, this is many hours later.
Yeah, he must have broken in during the night, right? Because Lori saw him.
Think?
Yeah.
Because it was sometime during the day during school hours, so it had to be at least before 3 p.m.
Yeah.
At the very most. But anyway, so then Loomis and the sheriff have a conversation about that. But what always makes me laugh is they're like, well, you have to keep an eye out for Michael. You have to. You have to. And there's Michael's car. There's right there. And he drives right by him. And I chuckle every time I see it.
It's not that it's Michael's car. It is the hospital car that they drove in.
Yeah. It has the logo on the side of it. Which, side note, they actually did borrow that from the Illinois state.
Oh, the car?
Yeah, that's actually a legit government car. Yeah, they borrowed it. Yeah, they did return it,
Yeah.
in proper shape.
Yeah.
So,
I would imagine so. But yeah, it's
yeah,
I
that
think
always just makes me laugh because they're talking about what a threat he is, and he just goes, wee.
it literally made me chuckle so much. I thought about making this like a part of the short, but I just couldn't. It just made me chuckle so much.
Yeah.
It's just a small little thing, and this is why these small little bits in a movie really make the movie from something that is okay or good into, oh, this is like next level shit.
Mhm.
It's good storytelling without actually telling you any story. This is a moment, it's a throwaway moment. They could have
Yep.
easily did the conversation and switched over to the girls going to the car, discussing Annie getting Laurie a boyfriend, something like that. And technically it shows that Michael is still chasing the girls.
Oh
That's the
yeah,
story. He's still chasing the girls. The
and
chuckle moment is the fact that they're talking about him and he literally drives past.
but you know what's really funny too? This includes a little bit of criminal psychology too, because often perpetrators of crimes return to the scene of a crime that they committed, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what he does here.
Yeah, and
He
it's
rolls right by it.
serial killers the the serial most of the pathological serial killers do enjoy uh listening to their name being said in the
Said
media
yes, yeah,
or talked about in the street, or
correct.
some sociopaths actually commit the crime, leave, and when the police come in and do the tape, they're standing in the crowd
Crowd.
looking at the police doing their work,
Yeah,
and yeah, listening to the detectives kind of talking to each other about
and
what and
often
how.
and often they'll be the first to actually offer to provide assistance.
Assistance as
Yeah.
well. Right.
But
So
anyway, so we're at the Michaels,
they're at
the
the
Myers.
Michaels. They go in, they set up, and Dr. Loomis kind of tries to pressure the sheriff to put somebody to watch the house. And the sheriff is reluctant. And basically, Dr. Loomis offers himself as someone to watch the house. Now, later on, I don't know if we're going to discuss this, but while we're here, there's a scene where Dr. Loomis is outside of the house, and the three boys that kind of scared
Oh yeah,
Danny, right?
get away
They
from the
go
house.
they try to go into the house as a bravery thing,
Yeah,
and Dr. Loomis says, "Get your ass out of the house."
house
It's like, oh, and they
scares the
literally
hell out of
scatter the
those
way.
little bastards. Yeah,
Now, it's those moments that it makes an older audience laugh these
yeah,
days. I don't know how they received it in the theater. I would imagine people chuckled. It and when the other scene came out, you would probably hear in the crowd something like, "There he goes," or something
yeah,
like that. So it makes it super interesting and kind of interactive when you're sitting at a like a theater. It it kind of gives you the difference between going to watch a movie at the silver screen and watching it at your own home with maybe just you there.
yeah.
It's such a different experience. I don't know how to tell you.
No,
Right.
yeah, I get you.
All right. It's we've been talking about this for a long time. Now it's time to go to our first segment of the night. It is our textless poster quiz, where we take posters from that have their text written off, or promotional
I know
posters.
this one.
And
I know this one off the bat, but go ahead.
okay, sorry, I forgot it's on the screen. Never mind. You've probably seen them all, right?
No,
Never
no,
mind.
I just
Okay,
a little
so
snippet, but no, that's it.
let's guess what this is.
It's Beowulf.
It's the new Beowulf. There's an older version which is very bad and very low budget.
And the new one is not that great
It's
either.
not very good. No.
Nope. Ew.
Ugh. This is James Bond. He could have been.
Well, we wanted him.
He wasn't.
No. That's. I'm assuming the breaking of glass is some kind of context clue, but for the life of me, I don't know. It's not Children of Man.
It is. No,
it is?
No Children for All Men. Yes.
Oh, that's not Right Along.
That's not Right Along.
I hated this movie because Sean William Scott played a thief in it, and he was annoying as shit.
The guy who played Stifler. I didn't like the movie, but I really loved the director, and I liked the backstory of this movie, and it caused a massive, well-known rift between the director and Bruce Willis.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
No, I'm drawing a blank on it now.
It's called Cop Out, and the director is Kevin Smith.
Oh, okay.
This is the movie. That Bruce Willis said he wanted to do with Kevin Smith when they were doing
That's right.
Die Hard 4.
Yeah.
And when they did this, they had a massive clash because Bruce Willis is an asshole and Kevin Smith is bendable.
Yeah.
Next.
Elektra.
This movie is very bad. What?
Immortals, right?
Immortals. Who's the guy?
It's really fucking terrible.
It's terrible. Who's the guy?
That's Henry Cavill.
That's Henry Cavill.
Playing like Perseus in that one. Oh my God, that's Lethal Weapon 4. Fuck you, I hate that movie.
It's not Lethal Weapon 4. Close.
Oh, it's 3 then.
It's Lethal Weapon 3.
Because it has Joe Pesci in it.
Yes. Well, Joe Pesci is in the second one as well. But
he's nowhere near as annoying.
He is very annoying.
And also, Joe Pesci
actually does a good job. I hated him in 2. I liked him in 3, and I hated him in 4.
But Joe Pesci with blonde hair. Why? Why, man? Why?
This is 91? 92?
92 or 93?
Yeah, something like that.
Speed.
It literally saved Keanu Reeves' career.
Yes,
literally.
The Bourne Identity?
Yep.
The Rock.
The Rock, also known as the older version James Bond.
Yep. Oh, God. It's Elysium or
not
something
Elysium.
in 1,000 Planets or something like that.
Yes.
God, it's a fucking terrible movie.
It's so bad.
Oh, God. I can't think of the first word.
I don't remember.
The title.
I actually don't remember the name now, but yeah, it's the one with 1,000 planets.
1,000 Planets, yeah. God, that movie's terrible.
It is Valerian in the City of 1,000
Valerian.
Planets. Valerian.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Cool.
Oh, I did way better on that one.
Yeah.
You're kind of in my wheelhouse there.
Yeah. A lot of shitty, bad movies. Yeah. I'm sorry, Bifford. I think the delay is so
bad.
Big.
Yeah.
It's so large. It's annoying. I hope it could be improved in the future, but at the moment I cannot. Let's see. Yeah. Why not this? Danny sees the boogeyman outside of Annie's place. Well, it's not Annie's place. It's where she takes care of this little girl. But
that's not a little girl. That's Tommy Doyle.
No. Tommy Doyle, not Danny, sorry. Tommy Doyle sees the boogeyman. Sees Michael Myers.
Oh, are you talking about
the street?
Where Annie takes care of the Wallace's house where she's watching it's Lindsay Wallace.
Lindsay Wallace
is a little girl. Yeah.
So, and she calls, she's either on the phone with Annie or she calls somebody and he gets her attention, but there's basically nobody there.
Yeah.
There's nobody there. And
you know that's a recurring theme when someone can see him for a split second and then he's gone.
Yeah. It happens a lot. And It happens a lot until the murders actually happen. And
Yep.
I like the fact that they've built this a little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit. And you always see him. There's always somebody who sees him, somebody who you can get a glimpse of him. There's a shot where he hides behind a tree, stalking, waiting for the parents to go outside the house, and that sort of thing. He stalks the couple, Linda and her boyfriend, that go
Yeah.
into the house. It's always some sort of a stalking, while even when the murders actually start.
Yep.
Now, there is a thing that happened in this one, and it didn't quite occur to me, but when I watched this the second time, it showed. Not Tommy, but Lindsay watches something on the TV. It goes into like an old RKO pictures thing.
It
And
was
then,
actually the promo, the opening for The Thing.
The Thing, yes.
Yeah.
The next John Carpenter movie. It's not the next one, but it's the next one. It wasn't really a movie. It was just a title. The movie itself is something completely different, but it's sort of outer spacey kind of thing. It's not titled as a horror movie at all. It was just The Thing. And that caption was actually the same logo and the same style that you actually use later on in the actual Thing with Kurt Russell.
Which that's a movie we'll have to cover sometime later, because that's one of my favorite films of all time. Because that's a great movie. And how they did that effect to get that to work, to have the text like that. Oh, that's a really cool effect.
So at some point, Annie takes off her clothing for some reason.
No, she's making popcorn and she spills butter on her clothes.
Yeah, she spills butter on her clothes. So that's the excuse to take off all her clothes, because this horror movie.
I mean, come on.
And the slut needs to die. I like the fact that she goes, there's an outhouse for the laundry. She goes outside. She gets locked in, or Michael locks her in. Doesn't really matter. And she tries to get out through the back window. Lindsay answers the phone from Lori, I think. She goes outside.
No, it was from Paul.
From her
boyfriend.
For her boyfriend. Annie's boyfriend. And she goes out into the outside to take care of everything, to see where Annie is. She opens the door and she sees Annie with her ass.
And she's just air. How did you get stuck like that? How would someone physically get stuck like that?
I don't know. But again, in a horror movie, it made me chuckle so much. Because the ass in the air, whatever, right? It's the comedic effect of it, where she gets stuck. I have no words anymore. It's just it made me laugh so goddamn much. It just does. So we see Annie talk to Lori, and she kind of pushes Lori into someone. And because Annie is, I'm guessing, well connected, it was a guy's
Ben.
name.
Something
like that.
Lori, Ben wants to take you to the dance tomorrow night and everything for the homecoming dance. And
and Lori really didn't really want to, because she's shy or something. And Annie says, well, I can call it off, but only if you take Lindsay with you to
watch her tonight. While
I can go and
Paul.
pick up Paul and bring him into the house for fun times and making out.
Make out. Yeah.
So I think, wait a minute, we'll jump to, that kind of jumped before that. So what Lori does, Annie, is she gets Lindsay into a secured location, and she goes out and she goes to the car.
And the door is locked. Huh. That's weird. I forgot the keys. She goes back to get the keys. When she comes back, she opens the door without unlocking it, sits down, and then she actually has a moment of realization. She goes, huh, wait a minute. And then Michael grabs her.
Grabs her and kills her. Now, you don't see the knife go into her body.
Well, actually, he doesn't actually stab her. He supposedly slits her throat, and that's the way it looks like what he does. Because he has his arm over her neck, and then he grabs the knife and goes like this.
Yeah, but
and then she
never
does
see,
the fake.
You don't see blood. You don't see anything, basically.
No.
Basically, this shot is like the end shot. And then it cuts to Laurie sits around with the two kids.
Yep.
Right? And then, of course, Linda pops in.
Linda and Bob. Bob with the big fucking glasses.
Yeah. So they sit around and they're drinking and say, oh, why don't we go to fucking Annie's place or the Wallace's place because Annie's there. Let's make out. So they make out on the couch and Michael is literally standing over them and watching them do it. They don't do shit, but they go upstairs. They go upstairs.
Well, at this point, Linda does call Laurie.
Yeah, Linda does
call
like,
Laurie. Hey, like, well, or no, or was it that
she asked her about where's Annie?
Or did Laurie call the?
No,
anyway,
no.
One of the two happened.
No, Linda called Laurie after the makeout session before they went upstairs, and she asked her about Annie, and Laurie says, well, she went to pick up Paul.
Yeah.
So Linda says, well, we're kind of here. Just we're here. And you should come too. But Laurie, the ultimate Girl Scout, she is, no, I have to take care of these two kids.
Yeah.
And Linda says, well, at some point they will go to sleep. You will come over and have some fun. I don't know how much fun they can have with three girls and two boys, and Laurie being a prude or some sort of a virgin of sorts.
Well, I mean, it's already
she's a goody two shoes, basically.
Well, it's already been shown that she smoked pot, so I mean, she can still have fun with her friends, hanging out. I mean, that's what you would do on a Halloween night.
They're basically seniors, I would say.
Yeah, they're in their later teens. They're at the end of high school, I'll put it that way.
So it's 16, 17, whatever.
18, yeah.
It doesn't really matter, but yeah. So Linda and Bob, I'm going to skip over that because that's exposed tit.
Yep. So, yeah.
Linda and Bob.
Oh, God. Look at those glasses.
Those glasses, man. Yeah, 70s, my man. As a glass wearer, and I hate fucking contacts. Yeah, I would definitely see this. I've seen my dad have this. Like,
you know what?
He doesn't really wear glasses, but he has had that frame for sure.
But do you know what it reminds me of? Robert De Niro in Casino.
It actually, you know what? At this angle, I would say, is it Peter Fonda?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Peter Fonda?
Yeah.
Is Peter Fonda the guy from the biker movies? The one with Dennis Hopper and Jack Nicholson. Shit. Forgot the name. Oh, I forgot the fucking name. I'll Google it.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Easy Rider. Fuck that.
Yes.
Easy Rider.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
I literally typed in Pete and I got it.
Yep. You're right.
Easy Rider. So he does look a little bit like Peter Fonda. This guy was never in anything else.
Nope.
In anything
he played
else.
Bob. That's
played
about
Bob,
it.
And he died as Bob. But I like how he gets executed, and we'll skip right to that because this is where the killing. Oh, thank you, Linda. That's another shot of your tit.
Yep, you got to be careful about that because there are quite a few shots of hers.
Yeah, yeah. Where? Oh, this is already at the chase scene. Shit.
So anyway, the
Oh,
setup.
yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, so the setup, the way that goes, basically, Linda tells Bob, "Well, go get me a beer." He
Yeah,
goes downstairs to
he
get a
goes
beer,
downstairs,
and
gets the
Michael
beer.
has been there the whole time, has
Yeah.
seen all of this go down. So
He
well,
chokes him. He literally look. This is where I'm gonna put in my WWE hat on.
oh yeah,
Michael
this
Myers,
is Kane. This is the choke slam from hell. That's what this is.
Michael Myers is either Undertaker or Kane.
Kane. Yep.
Because he does the most Undertaker moves ever. First, he choke slams without actually choke slam
Without slamming him
Bob
down.
here.
Yeah,
He literally chokes him, lifts him up, and stabs him until he loses his life, right?
Yeah.
And
all I'm saying is, too, by the way, this
we'll
has to be the strongest knife in existence.
Yes.
And also, he must have cut like right below the ribs where it's not breaking any ribs and the rib is actually supporting the knife up, because otherwise that would just go due to his own body weight.
Yeah. I know. That is the magical knife of ever living. Anyway, so that, and of course I can't really I can show
right,
let me
we
just,
can stop right
no.
Stop
I
right
have
there.
to, I have to show, yeah. I wanted to show, first of all, there's Bob with the knife. There's the knife right there. It is magical.
Yes.
It's super magical. But
by the way, also the kitchen knife, the butcher knife is only about that long, and it had to be about that long to go through to where it would support a body.
Yeah, I know. And go into the wood itself. And never mind. And then, Michael Myers, again, this made me
Michael Myers
so
got
much.
fucking jokes. That's all I gotta say, because this is hilarious.
It's so good. It's like he has a sheet. The sheet has holes in him. And he puts on Bob's fucking big glasses on. It's like,
granted, to the audience, this is a real, this is just fucking funny as hell. But if you think about it, it's actually a really smart move on Myers' part.
Exactly,
he's literally
because it's
covering himself up.
It's Halloween, so why not dress up as a ghost? Not to mention the fact that you have a mask over your fucking face.
Well, the glasses. He puts the glasses on to convince her that, hey, this has to be Bob, because no one else would wear these stupid fucking glasses.
Yeah, and of course Linda falls for it. She comes in and she gets, like you saw in a snippet of her getting smashed to pieces.
So what happens is she calls Lori to figure out, like, I'm going to call Lori to see what's going on because Annie isn't back yet. He's like, hey, have you heard from Annie? No, I haven't heard anything from Annie. And Michael pops up behind her and takes the phone cord and wraps it around her neck. And she is making orgasmic squealing noises.
Yeah, the squealing.
As she's being choked to death, which... Lori's line makes sense. Like, yeah, it's really funny. I've heard you laugh, and now I'm hearing the squeal. Really funny, because she thinks they're playing a joke on her. Like, oh, we're having fun, and you're not. And watching these kids.
I like the fact that she literally goes into it's the Wallace's place. And,
later, yeah.
And we have the reveal. So she goes into the room. And while she does that walk, Michael is moving at a rapid pace. So we've got Judith Myers. That's the name of the sister. That's the headstone. And he's got Annie sprawled in a cross position.
And at this point, you can actually see where the
throat got slashed as well.
Yep.
And as Lori backs away, Bob pops open upside down. And when she goes backwards again, the closet door opens up and there's Linda. Yeah. Linda got stuffed inside a closet as well. And of course, when she backs up again, Michael starts with the killing. Now,
Yep.
I'm going to compare. I'm going to compare
Yeah.
this into Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Why? We talked about it in the podcast that dealt with that, and what we said is the fact that the final fight scene, so the last girl, right? And Jamie Lee Curtis is a very, very, very good last
Well,
girl.
she's the quintessential final girl. She
Be-
is.
because no, she's not powerful, but she is very, very resilient. And she's a quick thinker, and she is unrelenting, but she's a little bit, I'm going to call it dumb, because she thinks it's over, but it's not over. And then she thinks it's over again, and it's not over again. And it always happens. Now, what's the comparison? The last fight scene in Friday was about 25 minutes. In this one, we are, I'm going to show it. Maybe you can't see the timestamp. You see here, 1 hour, 30 minutes. It's very hard to tell. We are at 1 hour, 15 minutes and 50 seconds at this point. So we have about 10, 12 minutes of suspense filled, and it goes from scene to scene to scene to scene.
Correct.
And we're going to go through all of the kills. So Laurie goes back into the Doyle's place.
Yeah.
And she, after, of course, Michael kind of rips her, she rips her shirt, and then she falls down the stairs, and she's limping.
She gets pushed over the stairs.
Yeah, basically. She falls down the stairs, and she's limping throughout the way. Now, if you fall down those stairs, you will be limping much harder.
She would have broken her neck. There is no way that she would have been able to
but we're suspending our disbelief here, and
yes,
I'm okay with it. I'm actually super okay with it. So she goes back into her place, and I'm gonna try and set. Now she turns off the lights, which I didn't get. That is a stupid move, because what you were supposed to do is turn on the lights, right?
To ensure, yeah, because anyone was going to be, if you're going to call for help or anything, you would want to let it be known that someone's actually inside the house.
I noticed another thing. After Laurie falls down the stairs, she goes to the front door, and it's locked. So she steps out the back door, not the front door. And that kind of harkens me back to the Scream movie, where they said, "Why are you going the front door? You can go out like up to your room instead," which kind of happens in the movie. And it's like, again, give me a little bit of a chuckle, because I know what I know now.
But
originally it's not a trope. Originally, it was just there in the movie.
Well, that and then later when she runs upstairs, it's like, so what you're going to do is you're going to corner yourself in a place where you can't escape.
Yeah, exactly.
No, bad idea.
Very, very bad idea.
But I was going to say, to your point that you mentioned about the last 30 minutes of the original Friday the 13th, and it's almost the way in the first Nightmare on Elm Street, the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They all have that really like slow build up, and then it's just bam, all action. The conclusion and the climax are one and the same in all of those early horror slasher films.
Yeah, but you can get in this one, at least I got in this one, the slow methodical build, because like I said, if you add the murders of Annie and Linda and Bob, you get like an extra
it's
10 minutes.
Sparsed out. Yeah.
So we've got about an hour and change where it slowly, very slowly builds up. You see everything, and then in the last half hour, everything kind of happens in succession, especially in that last 10 minutes where it's go, 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 go time. And
I would say also rest in peace, that poor puppy.
Oh yeah, yeah. That
The
poor
Wallace
puppy
dog.
that got he died before Annie did. I think
Yep.
he died before Annie. So the first one, and I'm having the hardest time catching the exact moment. So we'll get to this. So Lori takes out a bobbing pin, right? It's called a
Yeah,
bobbing
it's a
pin.
knitting needle.
Knitting needle. Okay.
Knitting, yeah.
And literally she locks everything in the house and you think everything is safe. And he comes up from the fucking out from behind the couch with the knife
And
and
stabs
he
into the
gets
couch.
stuck as a sort of a, I don't know, a quick reaction or quick reflex. Gets
Yeah, it's
stuck
an impulse, like right in the neck.
and he pulls it away. You can actually see in this scene, it actually hit blood quite deep
Yeah.
at the side of the neck. He pulls it out, but he doesn't bleed out, which kind of adds to the mystique of you can't really kill Michael Myers, and there's no actual reason why. We don't know why. At this point, he's not supernatural. Like Jason isn't supernatural at Friday the 13th, or at least at that particular point.
Yeah, not until 5, or was it 6? I think it's 6 when Jason Lives starts, when he actually is a zombie. Yeah, that's a whole dumb thing. Let's not talk about that.
Next scene is arguably the most famous, right? The most famous from the entire Halloween franchise, where she
It's
kind of
up there,
cuts
yeah.
into the corner and he breaks the shutters away. And all she does is she literally takes a wire hanger and stick it in his ear. He drops the knife and she sticks them with the knife and she runs off. And she thinks it's over because she stuck a massive butcher's knife into his chest, right?
After
Then
gouging his eye out with
after
that
gouging his eye out. And so we get, and of course it literally shows Laurie's resilience and everything. But then I want to get to that specific point, but it's really hard. She literally, it's right after this. There's literally a shot of her. She releases the kids. She tells them to run away, get some help. And she sits outside the house, and across her shoulder, you see Michael literally does the Undertaker move where he sits up.
Dong.
Right?
Yeah.
He literally sits up and does the head turn and looks at her. And I'm like, holy shit. Holy shit. This guy means business. So into the rescue, Dr. Loomis comes in, bang, 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 shoots him around. He falls off the balcony of that, it's the parents' bedroom. He falls off the balcony. He lays down on the floor. Dr. Loomis looks at him. He sees the body, goes out, talks to Laurie, and she asks him, "Is it over?" And he tells her, "For now."
She asks him, like, "Was that the boogeyman?"
Yeah.
And he says, "Yes, that was."
That was, and she asks him if it's over, and he tells her, like, for now. And he goes outside to look in the balcony, and he sees there's no Michael Myers, even though he emptied a full, like it's a 38 or something. He literally
6 shots,
6-shot revolver, and he disappears. And cut to music.
And as it cuts to music, do you know what it does? It cuts to all the locations where Michael had been throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
That was done on purpose to show that Michael Myers was basically like the boogeyman. He could be anywhere at any time.
Yeah. These shots. Like, it goes into the Myers place. It shows not Laurie's place, the Doyle's place, the Wallace's place. That's sort of every little place in it's called Haddonfield, right?
Haddonfield, Illinois,
Haddonfield, Illinois. And then
credits. That's it.
Credits. And we'll see here that it's called The Shape. Hold. Yeah, there it is. Nick Castle. Right there.
Yep.
Right. And of course, we've got the stunt double. I don't know why he's in the cast, but I'm guessing he's the only stunt double. So I get
Yeah.
they maybe put him in Laurie's wig, I guess, because they had to do the fall.
That I don't know. That I couldn't
Probably,
find any information about. So.
most probably yes. Uh, I don't know.
As this
And
was on a very shoestring budget, I would not be surprised.
and that is basically it. We skipped a few points where Laurie kind of pulls Michael's mask away, and
There
you see
was
his
that
face
scene,
for a
you
little
see
bit, like we discussed. You
and
do
there
see
there
his
was
face.
actually in that moment you did see him actually release Laurie because it was more important for him to have the mask on. He didn't want anyone to see his face, so he literally he drops her and puts the mask on his face. That's when Loomis gets the jump on him and shoots him.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
but that was Halloween.
Yeah, and that is Halloween. It's pretty short. It goes up. The viewing is absolutely goes by very, very fast. You get that music that I wanted everybody to hear. It really does set up a lot of the tension and suspense in this movie. And again, kind of weird that it's basically a typical slasher movie without blood, without actual slashing too much. You do see dead bodies, but it's not super, no,
they didn't go into like utilizing practical effects that they did in even the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which came out before this movie, or even the Slumber Party Massacre, which came out before this movie.
Yeah, but it literally starts. It is maybe sort of a template for not the camp section, which is more Friday the 13th, but more of the small town killing where you see when you go into like Nightmare on Elm Street is more of a small town kind of
the same thing
high school thing.
Well, I mean, as campy as Friday the 13th gets, originally it's localized around a small lake in the middle of basically nowhere.
All right. So before we do any summarization of this movie, let's do our second segment of the night, which is Cinema Deathmatch, which I've already started with two movies that they came up and they're both kind of Halloween-y, but not really.
All right.
Let's take a look.
Let's go.
Of course, the audience, I know there's a massive lag between us and you, but give us your movie as soon as you can in the chat. Please tell us which one of these two you like, and we'll have some sort of feedback. Okay. The Exorcist, or El Exorcista.
Yes.
I like the fact that it comes from like France and Spain and
they have
Argentina,
all of the time.
And,
every single one of the movie posters you can think of in any foreign language, they throw them up on this. But
I would love, if you see the Big Trouble in Little China, I would love that as a cinema as a poster quiz thing, but it's it's too much. It's too integrated. Anyways, Big Trouble in Little China or The Exorcist. Spooky.
Now, this one's really difficult because it would completely depend on whether or not the person I was watching the movie with had seen The Exorcist or not.
Ooh, interesting. Very interesting. That's a consideration. And also, when do you watch The Exorcist? Do you watch it around Halloween time, or is it something that you put on as let me show you a very frightening but very well-made movie?
Yeah.
Or some piece of popcorn with some magic in it and spooky shit.
Yeah. So overall, I know it's Halloween, but I'm going to have to go with Big Trouble in Little China because that's more of a dependable movie that I could put on a Friday with anybody and we could watch it and have a laugh. The Exorcist, I'm sorry, it lost its appeal for me after the first time I saw it. They're like, yes, it's a great, well-made film, but after you see it once, you kind of get the whole point of it and you can just move on from it. It's a one and done for me.
I would agree that if you watch this, but with someone that never watched The Exorcist, and there's these two movies, I would go with The Exorcist.
Mhm.
But as a fun little Friday evening or Saturday, I would go to Big Trouble in Little China.
Mhm.
Bicycle Thieves and Little Miss Sunshine. I haven't seen Bicycle Thieves, and it's old. Friday the 13th and Little Miss Sunshine.
That's right.
After watching Friday the 13th, I would watch Little Miss Sunshine.
Sunshine.
I'm not even joking.
I would too. Again, that's another good horror. Good point. It's the same thing with The Exorcist, except for The Exorcist is a way better film, obviously.
Yes.
But if no one's seen Friday the 13th before, it's be like, okay, come on, we're gonna watch this because you've got to see it at least once. But
Yeah.
no, Little Miss Sunshine, yeah, that's a fun movie. Well, it's a sad movie too, but it's a
sad movie, but it's yeah. Phantom Thread and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Have you seen Phantom Thread?
Yes. Have you?
I have not. So moving on.
It's a good movie.
I've seen this one though, Holes with Shia LaBeouf. It is terrible.
All I want to say is Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. Laces out. Always laces out.
Rush Hour 2 or The Da Vinci Code. This is where I have trouble. Both of them are really good popcorn movies. One of them is based on something that I like a lot, which is breaking down theology and dogma, which I love about any religion. Rush Hour 2 is still funny, but they have not and will not capture the original fun and jokey and weird buddy cop movie that they had in Rush Hour, the original one.
Yeah.
So for me, it's Da Vinci Code.
I'm actually gonna have to go with Rush Hour 2 because I don't like the Da Vinci Code. So Biffer, if you're here, buddy.
I don't know if he's here. Maybe he's watching just across because he hasn't said anything. Dahl hasn't said anything as well. So we're gonna go with my choice because I have the mouse. 127 hours.
Cheating little prick you are sometimes.
Story 3. I am always. Hey. All right, Toy Story 3 or 127 hours. This movie is very bad.
127 hours?
Anybody? Yeah, I just
I didn't much care for it either. Wow, it's a story of survival, but yeah, the idiot put himself in that set of circumstances. Had it been an actual natural event that he survived, would have been a whole different story. But no, this dumb went on his own. Nope.
And Toy Story 3 had such a great scene at the end. It's
the ending is heartbreaking in Toy Story 3. It's fantastic.
The Devil Wears Prada or Full Metal Jacket. Is there any competition here?
Do you even need to ask? You don't.
I don't. Ugh.
Same thing. You don't need to ask.
Yeah, it's Natural Born Killers. Easy. Gojira.
Same thing. You don't need to ask. That was 3 back to back was like the dumbest things.
Hold the phone. We have some contention here. Matrix
they're actually
Reloaded or Star Trek.
This is the original reboot, right?
This is J.J. Abrams' reboot.
Yeah.
Now, when I saw it originally, I liked it, but I had massive issues with the Romulan storyline.
Well, that and also the Spock time paradox thing.
I hated the deviation of the timeline. I think it's now referred to as the Calvin timeline, which is Calvin the ship, right? Mm-hmm. I think they call it, I'm not sure it's official or not, but I know it as the Calvin timeline, which is the deviation and the new story. Sort of like if you remember Back to the Future 2, where they had the timeline and the deviation, right?
Yeah.
I don't like what it's set up for later, which is the next Khan movie and then Darkness Beyond or Beyond Darkness, whatever it's called. And per se, the movie itself is not bad, I just didn't love the story that they've tried to tell. That's my issue with it. I hated the time deviation. I hated the alternative, whatever. And it set up a whole universe that I didn't quite like. I've seen them all, but
Yeah.
I
And it also
sure as
said the
shit
fact that
I sure
apparently
as shit
Kirk,
didn't watch it in the
yeah.
theater.
Well, also said the whole thing where Kirk had all these daddy issues and trying to explain why he was such a philanderer. It's like, no, like, can some characters just be assholes and let's not have to go through it? Like, yeah, they all have flaws. Kirk was always a philandering kind of a dickhead.
Yeah,
That's
he's an egotistical narcissist that thinks he knows better than anybody else.
yeah. You don't need to set up a reason why he's like that. Some people are just like
Yeah,
that without
are
any reason. Not
naturally
because
dickheads. Yeah,
because my daddy died and I never really got to know my father and my stepdad's a prick. Wah, wah.
yeah.
Fuck off, Star
So
Trek.
when I saw this the first time, I liked it, but I didn't like where they went to with the story. In hindsight, I have a dislike for this
Yeah.
specific trick. Cut to Matrix Reloaded. I didn't like it when I first watched it. I still don't think they did a service to the original Matrix.
No.
It's not as bad as Revolutions.
True.
It's not as bad a movie or a story that I once thought it was, but it has a very glaring issue of having a very, very poor CGI fights that you definitely should have changed in the script to
Yeah.
accommodate for actual real life fights.
Fights, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when Neo fights the Merovingian crew, right? He fights the Merovingian crew in his mansion. It's so well made. When he fights the
multiple Smiths.
the multiple
Yeah.
Smiths, oh, it is terrible.
And it's even worse in Revolutions. The end of that movie is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Granted, at the time, it was groundbreaking CGI. It looked brilliant at the time, but so did the stuff that happened in '98 in Blade. The La Magra scene with Blade fighting Deaton Frost. Oh, that looked amazing in 1998. The same thing with Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions. At the time, it looked spectacular. But in hindsight, it's like, no, oh no, that's bad.
Exactly.
But I will have to say, the thing about The Matrix Reloaded has one of the best highway chase scenes of all time.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with Matrix Reloaded.
I have to as well, because, again, fun popcorn movie, turning that on. And I did like the fact that they tried to explain what the concept of like werewolves and zombies were actually just like glitches in the Matrix.
In the Matrix.
It was like, oh, that's a cute little turn there. No, that's cool. That's kind of nice.
I understood it. I just don't like it.
Oh no, it's perfectly.
I get it.
It's perfectly fine.
Like
just say like, oh, but that's kind of cute. But anyway,
this is our last pairing. You know what? It's so easy. I'm not even going to ask you.
Yeah.
Last pairing now, because we're going a bit longer than I expected. 40-Year-Old Virgin or Alice in Wonderland. I must admit, Alice in Wonderland is still taking into consideration the entire run of Walt Disney's Pixar collaboration. Alice in Wonderland is my favorite all-time animated movie from Disney, including whatever you want to pull it. This one is my favorite. 40-Year-Old Virgin, I'm going back and forth on this. I
agree with the sentiment. I think the 40-Year-Old Virgin is probably the best in Steve Carell's comedy career, in movie-wise.
Might be.
But
it's definitely not Evan Almighty, that's for sure. Which should have been
ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is now over, and we're done. We're wrapping up here. We're done.
Okay. Which one of the two will you pop in your VCR?
VCR, well, it wouldn't be the 40-year-old version because they didn't even actually release
Exactly.
it on VHS. So,
no, which one of you will you pick?
I would have to say for Friday night for a popcorn movie, I'm gonna have to go with the 40-year-old virgin. Given our stipulation, I think Alice in Wonderland's a better movie. It's definitely a classic that will stand the test of time. But I'm going by our credentials here, our criteria.
I'm gonna go with you, and I'm gonna pick 40-year-old virgin, despite the fact that that's my favorite Walt Disney movie.
Yeah,
it's still a Walt Disney movie.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's gonna be 40-year-old virgin. All right. I know. I kind of set it up for me picking not that, but yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. At the end of the day. Yeah. I have a love, hate relationship with Disney movies and Disney as a company.
In general, yeah.
Massively. I'm sorry. It's just that.
Oh, no, that's perfectly fine. I have the same kind of sentiment when it comes to Disney.
Right. Let's sum up this movie. And
all right,
give us. You want me to give a first?
Yeah, no, you go first.
Right. So, like I said, for me, watching this week, watched it twice, and of course, going back and forth, making sure the edits is correct. So I've, that. Plus, watching the Netflix thing, which kind of gave me a little bit of insight towards going in and talking to this on the podcast, which I love. I like to have all the backstories. In this podcast, I do try to look at around the movie, not actually analyzing everything from back and forth, even though it's fun. Watching, I basically had a first time watch kind of experience. And I liked it. Cut to Friday the 13th, which I've seen more than enough time, way more than Halloween. If I compare those two, which are staples in the horror genre, I would say Halloween takes it by a long mile. The music is much better, even though both iconic scores. The story, even though it's very compact in terms of the settings, is a little bit, generally speaking, it's a full town, so it should be a larger scale, but you have several locations, but it's like the Myers house, the Wallace's house, the Doyle's house, but the hardware store and the high school and the elementary school and the the psychiatric hospital. So it's a little bit more, it's not compact, but it feels very tight. The fact that the suspense is building up, and it's not letting go. There's no nude Monopoly coming from nowhere. There's no fucking Ned trying to drown himself, not trying to drown himself thing. There's no silly stuff happening apart from the chuckles that you get while you're in the suspense. So Linda with Bob, the whole that thing, Annie getting stuck in the window, the car moving past Dr. Loomis, all those things that we said that made us a little bit, it's lighthearted. But if you taking it into consideration that, Annie could literally get stuck in the window and literally gets killed, could have gotten killed right there and then. Also, the car thing, he stalks the two girls, and so on and so on. As a sort of a first time viewing, I would definitely put this higher up on the scale of tight, good movies to watch as a horror movie, as a teaching kind of moment. And if you watch this podcast after first time watching Halloween, you get what I'm saying, where it's literally putting you in a much more of a suspenseful mood throughout the movie. And it doesn't let up until it literally doesn't let up, because you see Michael dead. You have sort of inside you've got your resolution or heart or mind or both,
Mhm.
but then at the very last moment he's gone and you see the places where he's been and he's out there. I caught you. Hello?
No,
Hello?
no, I'm just listening. I'm just
Anything to add to what I said?
No, completely agree with the sentiments. This is one of the most highly rated horror films of all time for a reason. It not only helped create but perpetuate the boom, like the horror genre and the slasher subtype of that genre from its infancy, really coming up from movies like Suspiria, from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, from Slumber Party Massacre, from all these other slight films that are bring up that bit and bring up the slasher as its own unique take on horror. And then all the films that come afterward, watching this movie, you see where the tropes originated from. You see the creation of all these ideas that have been perpetuated in countless films that even 43 years later are still being utilized in horror films.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Last thing before we end this. We haven't talked about Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis is the daughter of Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh. Now that's not super important, like it's a good pedigree, but when John Carpenter took her in, it literally gave him a piece of the movie where Janet Leigh was killed with a specific butcher's knife in Psycho. In the very famous shower scene. Also very minimal blood. Also by a tall man wearing a mask. Sort of.
Well, and also originally when Jamie Lee Curtis was cast to play Laurie, Carpenter didn't want her for the role. Then he found out because Jamie Lee Curtis had only done TV before, and he had done TV shows that, well, John Carpenter said, like, I don't watch TV, so I never even heard of this girl before. But he found out that she was,
of a certain pedigree.
Yeah. And he's like, well, yes, that we have to have her in the film. Because there are also two other very, very famous homages to Hitchcock in this movie.
Do tell me.
Tommy Doyle. Doyle is a reference to the sheriff in Rear Window.
Oh, okay. What else?
And
notes?
No, I just forgot his name. I had it written down. It's Loomis. Loomis is actually has the same, Dr. Loomis has the same last name as the boyfriend of the main character in Psycho.
Oh, okay. Nice.
They threw homages to Hitchcock in this.
And again, the whole look of Michael Myers and how he operates comes from John Carpenter's homage to Janet Leigh and doing sort of the same with her daughter. So the butcher's knife looks the same. The fact that he's wearing a mask, even a mask, is sort of his homage to the guy dressing up in Psycho. I don't remember if he actually has a mask, but definitely has a wig and he dresses up like his mom.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And because I forgot his name, if you want to throw it, go ahead. I forgot the fucking name. The name of the guy in Psycho. Never mind. Bifford can tell us, and never mind. All right. I'm not dragging you out of this hole. Okay. Well, you know me. I forget names and all that shit.
His name's Norman Bates.
Norman Bates. God damn it.
It's the Bates Motel. Come on, man.
Yeah, the Bates Motel. Never mind. You know I'm a stupid. Anyway, November comes in. We are done with the spooky month. And what happens in real life on November 18th? If not, Ghostbusters Afterlife comes into theaters, into a theater near you. Now, in order to honor the new Ghostbusters Afterlife, we're going to do back-to-back podcasts. Next podcast, next week, will be the original 1984 Ghostbusters. And the week after that, in preparation for Ghostbusters Afterlife, we're going to cover Ghostbusters 2 from 1989. So next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to cover the original Ghostbusters, everything that has to go around it, the story, the backstage, how it came to be, how it was made, how everything, and we're going to discuss it. Also, I've talked to Oh My Feelings before. I am working on a series about movies that came in at a very specific points in my life. Ghostbusters, I've discovered literally last week or this week, whatever you want to call it, has a very, very, very special connection with my personal life. We're going to divulge that next week. So go out. If you haven't watched Ghostbusters, please go watch the original version of Ghostbusters just to refresh your mind on it. So we can just talk around it and not actually the whole storyline. And meet us here Saturday, 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific time. And of course, if you have any suggestions, please contact me on DMs or just at me on Twitter at Mephisto, easy peasy, or on Instagram if you like that, at Mephisto79, or email me, Mephisto79@gmail.com, or comment section down below. If you have any sort of graphical talent that you want to share with us, please contact me and we'll sort something out. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Any words for our audience, sir?
No, just go watch Ghostbusters. Gonna have a good time.
Ghostbusters. Good night, Bedford. Good night, Doll, and good night, everybody else. Have a great night. And tomorrow's Halloween, so go watch a scary movie.